Passion is things that you're willing to suffer to do. And so if you're passionate about design, that means you're willing to suffer some to do that.
What's going on? You're listening to episode 43 of the Perspective Podcast, and I'm your host, Scotty.D.Russell of Perspective Collective. This show is all about carving out time to build something with your creativity. I know it's not easy if you have a day job or a family at home, but I think it's important to pursue something that's important to you and something that you enjoy. You never know what it could lead to. This week on the show, we have the talented designer, illustrator, speaker, and just a kick-ass friend, Jason Craig. Jason operates out of Augusta, Georgia, and currently is the senior designer for the Westaboo Festival in Augusta. He and I go back as we originally linked up through Instagram and then met each other at Creative South in 2015. That year, he was a speaker, and I was blown away by his storytelling and presence on the stage, let alone his artwork. Fast forward to today, and he's become a mentor of mine and someone I can rely on to give it to me straight and cut through the bullshit. In this episode, we go really deep into a lot of topics with something that I really think stands out that I feel you're going to resonate with is how he gets inspired and executes on ideas, the reason people get confused with passion and struggle, being paralyzed by perfection and how repetition is the answer, and things like leaving yourself open to opportunity. Jason has a gift for drilling home his points through metaphors and analogies, and I really think you'll enjoy his setup and delivery. He's always making some type of appearance at your favorite design conferences, but specifically, you can catch him speaking next at the Crop Pop-Up Conference in November in Austin, Texas. And you can find the show notes to this episode over at perspective-collective.com/43. All right, today on the show, we got my brother, my mentor, an amazing designer. We have Jason Craig. Jason, how are you, man?
I'm good, Scotty. How you doing?
I am fantastic. So a quick little backstory of how we met is basically I was creeping on your Instagram leading up to Creative South about 2 years ago. And finally, like we had maybe a couple back and forth exchanges of something on Instagram. And I found you on like the last night after your talk on the second day. And you kind of took me under your wing from there and allowed me to flourish and blossom. So I can't thank you enough. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks. I got some crazy news for you, though. It was 3 years ago.
That's 3 years ago?
Yeah, it was 3 years ago.
Yeah, because last year I got to speak. So, 3 years. Wow.
3 years ago.
Yeah.
So it was we hadn't even seen each other the entire time. And then on the very last night on the little going away party thing, I stood up to leave the whole conference. And you were standing at the end of the row, like had me trapped. You're like, I'm going to meet you. I'm like, all right, man. We hung out and it's been awesome since then,
I was persistent.
Yeah, and it was awesome. I mean, you'd flown down there by yourself, and didn't know anybody, and I mean that takes a lot of balls, So I knew that about you from the start. So I had no doubts you had awesome stuff coming.
Hell yeah! Well, it's just great to have you on the show. Well, I stole this one from Master of One, but they gave me permission to do it. So give me a brief Wikipedia page about yourself, a little bit of your story, who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Yeah, real quick. I grew up in the Midwest, middle of cornfields. You know exactly what that's like. Snow in the winter, corn the rest of the time. Got a pile of leaves there for a couple weeks in the fall, and it was one of those deals where I knew from an early age that that's not where I was going to be, and so right as soon as I got out of high school, about a year later, I moved down to Augusta, Georgia, and I've just kind of since then I've worked in all kinds of industries as a designer. I'm coming up on 20 years as a continuously employed designer here in about next month. It'll be 20 years. So, which is crazy because I look back at that and I was like, damn, if I would have been a welder or a plumber like my parents told me to be, I could retire now. But I've been doing it that long, and so that's kind of crazy to think about. But I've done T-shirts and worked in sign shops and large format digital printing and shit. I've made lottery tickets, so I've done a lot of stuff. I used to make comic books. I worked for Disney for a while, so I've been there, and I spent about 6.5 years at an agency, and so I've had a little taste of all of it.
So how did you get into design and art in the first place? What kind of sparked your interest at an early age?
It's one of those things where it's like, it's all I remember ever doing. It's that same story where my mom's got pictures of me when I was a little kid drawing on little chalkboards and stuff. And so, growing up, I would get my homework done really fast and flip it over and draw pictures on it. I'd get my tests done really fast and flip them over and start drawing on them. I got in trouble in second grade. That was the first time that they had to really get my parents in there for a conference because I was drawing naked ladies on all my folders. And so they decided they'd better give me a sketchbook. Like, you can draw whatever you want in here, but keep it to yourself. I was like, all right. So it's just one of those things that I've always done. And I really, as far as being a designer goes, it wasn't until I got into some art history classes and I was like, holy shit, these artists are like, they don't get paid until after they die. That was my perception. And growing up in the Midwest too, being an artist was not like, I didn't know any artists or anybody creative. It was like everybody had a cousin that, lives far off. It's an artist that they talk about like they're this mythical creature. And so, I guess now I'm that mythical creature because I moved away from home. And so all my little cousins are like, oh, I got a cousin that's an artist that lives 1,200 miles away. So I'm that mythical creature now. But, I probably didn't even know what a graphic designer was until I read it in a help wanted ad in the newspaper, honestly, and applied for a job with like an old school application. So that was probably the first time I heard the word designer.
Did you land the job right away too?
So my first real job out of school, it's funny, my first job out of high school, actually, I started college, and I ended up getting a job coloring little children's books for Disney and doing some comics for DC. I did like Batman and Super, like JLA. And so, I was like, well, shit, if I can get this job, I don't need to go to college. And so I dropped out, and I was doing that, and I was 18 years old and a real dipshit. And so, my head was huge. I thought like I was the man. And so I was learning Photoshop and doing all this stuff. And it was really cool. My stuff was getting translated in 70 languages and all this. And I was like, well, I'm going to save up my money and move out of this dump. I hate shoveling snow and looking at corn all the time. And so I did, and I moved down here, and I kind of thought like I would just walk into the scene and just immediately be like the top man. And it was kind of the opposite. There was a lot of jobs, but not the kind of jobs I was doing. And nobody really was impressed by the fact that I came down. I was like, oh, I'm coloring comic books for Disney. And they're like, we need an embroidery assistant, and it was like, I did get a job at a t-shirt shop, and it was one of those deals where it was like, I was making minimum wage and had to work on Saturdays. And so I kind of went from, the tip top, like I know a lot of people would probably kill to work for Disney in a creative role. And I went from that to working at a t-shirt shop, making family reunion shirts within a month of each other. And so it was pretty interesting. And then I've just kind of climbed that ladder since then, with my art and with my design career. And a couple of years ago, it kind of flip-flopped, and I became way more interested in design than I am art. I'm still interested in art, but the design side kind of, I found carved out a little piece for myself in that side of it.
I mean, you're still kind of an artist at heart, though.
Oh yeah. I mean, to me, it's like I looked at it as two separate careers. I had my art, and then I had my design, and the design was like strictly day job. Line stuff up, make sure everything's spelled right. Get it out the door on the deadline. And I would go home and I would toil in my studio all night long. I would come home and eat dinner, and I was like, do not disturb. I'm going out in the studio and I'm going to paint. And I did a lot of art shows, and I did gallery stuff and a ton of stuff. And through most of the 2000s, I did a lot of artwork, and that was what I did. I painted pictures and did commissions, and there was a year where bubble wrap was my biggest expense because I was shipping off so much stuff. And so those were great days, and it just kind of got where the joy of it, like I didn't really enjoy painting as much, because really what I was doing is I was drawing. I love drawing, but I would basically, painting to me was transferring a drawing onto another substrate. And so really it was like not therapeutic at all. It wasn't like I was trying to pour something out of my soul and get it onto the canvas. I was just doing it. It kind of turned into that day job, you know, painting did. And I was fortunate, you know, that people bought my stuff, but it didn't mean anything to me really. You know, I was just kind of doing stuff that I felt like people would like, you know, and, you know, stuff that would look good over their bed, you know, or over their couch, you know. But I did well at it. And in the meantime, I was just kind of, a journeyman with design. You know, I wasn't really trying to explore anything fun. I was doing like the stuff that I think a lot of people do. I was like making parody stuff, you know, taking a UPS logo and turning it into something else, and all that stuff that I think people do when they're learning about, you know, design and how to use the tools that come along with it.
Well, I think that segues nicely into Westaboo Festival. So I know you originally, when I first met you, was Weir Stewart. Then I know you went a little bit on your own for a while, and now you've landed working for a festival, that's probably got to be one of the coolest jobs ever. Yeah,
it really is, and really it's I mean, it's like going up to like image adjust invert. You know, like I went from an agency where I was a senior designer for 6.5 years, and we were doing national campaigns. I got to put banners on Madison Square Gardens and billboards in Times Square, and got to do stuff with, you know, Taylor Swift and, you know, just all this cool stuff, you know, just like the tip top, like when I go to career day, I'm the coolest one. And then I went and it got to a point where it was like, you know, as they grew and as I grew, it was just one of those deals where it was like we're both growing, but we were kind of not necessarily in stark different directions, but we were just going towards different mountaintops. And so, you know, when we were at the base camp, you know, we could see each other, and then as we kept climbing different mountains, you know, eventually it got to where we were pretty far apart. And so, you know, there's only one direction. It was to step out, and sometimes, you know, you can't really wait until you have something else lined up. You know, you just have to take that step. And so that's what happened, you know.
See, you got some balls to do that yourself. Like, that's not like me. I'm not the one who would just go out there and risk it. I'm too chicken shit. So respect for that, because look how it turned out.
It was a very mutual thing, though. You know, it was just time, you know, and we all agreed that it was time. We had a little going away party, you know, and we were all having drinks, and literally at 5:30 on that day of my last official day that I was supposed to be there, I got a text, and it said, and I didn't even know who it was from, and it's like, we just sent you an offer. And I'd been like talking to people, you know, a lot of agencies and things, and I was trying to weigh out all my options and trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And so Westaboo sent me an offer, and they're like, we want to make you our first in-house designer. And the terms of the deal were I said yes right there on that text. And so I started on Monday, and so I didn't miss a beat as far as working goes. But Westaboo is incredible. You know, I mean, it's so interesting. It's a nonprofit, which is really weird for me. That's the weirdest part, because at an agency, you know, it's like, you know, what's the solution to this problem? It's like, oh, make it solid gold, you know, and charge the client. And a salesperson goes and talks the client into making the thing solid gold, and they pay for it, and you move on. With a nonprofit, it's like, here's your budget, you know, here's what we need to get done. See if you can do it for less than that, you know. And so you can't spend your way out of challenges. The other thing too is that I'm my own client at Westaboo. You know, I'm the only designer, you know, and there's 3 of us. I mean, there's 3 people that put on this festival, and we have a board, and we have trustees, and we have, you know, volunteers and committees and stuff, but day to day there's 3 of us. And so one of the things that they tasked me with was to turn it into a year-round brand, that it's not just a 5-day festival, it's a year-round thing. We have an art gallery that I walk through every day to get to my office. And, you know, it's just, I deal with music, I deal with art, I deal with film, I deal with spoken word, I deal with dance, you know, a lot of stuff that is very interesting, and a lot of different challenges that come along with it. And I get to meet so many cool people. That's the best part, is I get to meet so many cool people, and I get to meet bands and make posters, you know, I've always made gig posters, you know, but now I get to make, you know, legit posters for these big bands, you know, and it's pretty awesome, you know. It's just really cool.
In the show notes, it would be nice to get a couple of the old gig posters, as well as some of the later ones that have been created with Westaboo. That'd be sick.
Yeah, and you can definitely see the difference.
It would be cool to show that, especially the growth over these last 3 years alone. I've been seeing you just evolve at a rapid pace.
You know, and and a big part of that is, no disrespect to anybody, but to just have those limiters taken off, I mean, to not be told what to do or how to do it. That makes a big difference, and to be doing that full time, I mean, obviously at my job at Westaboo, we all have to agree that everything looks right, but, I don't have a creative director, and, I don't have an art director. I am the art director and I am the creative director. And so, it all falls on me. And there's a lot of pressure with that because everybody in my town knows when they see something, they know who did it. And so if it sucks, they know who did it. And so I want my town to look cool, and this is one of the best ways I can do that, and so, but there's a lot of pressure, I can't mail that in. I got to bring my A game every time. Augusta is the second largest city in Georgia behind Atlanta. And it's spread out geographically. It's like the size of New York. It's crazy how big it is.
Oh, damn. I didn't realize that. Where were you at before, though?
It's just really spread. Well, before I was in Sullivan, Illinois, town of 4,500 people that had 2 stoplights, and they made T-shirts that said we had 2 stoplights. I mean, that's where I grew up. And, to live in a town where there was no place to buy a pair of Nikes and no place to do anything but rent movies, stand in parking lots, and shovel snow. I mean, that was the cultural influence I grew up with. And so really it was, it was like rap music was the first thing that really taught me about the outside world, kind of, because when you live in a tiny town like that, it's everything, it's like the whole earth is so big and everything is right there. But then whenever you venture out, you realize that the world is small, and your network, I mean, look at us, our network expands across America. I mean, we know people just everywhere now. And growing up, you never thought that was possible. It goes back to that like abstract, that artist that lives 1,200 miles away. Well, I mean, I talked to people in Portland today. I talked to you in Iowa today. I talked to people in Jacksonville today, just as a matter of conversation, and before that's just not, when you live in a tiny place like that, you don't accept that that's possible to be so like broad in your influence and your interactions with people.
Definitely. Well, something that really, other than your artwork, something in the beginning that really got my attention to you was your visual storytelling and your metaphors. The first time I heard you speak at Creative South, that's what really, caught my attention, was some of the, the stories you were retelling about black coffee or punching through, a drywall to like someone could do that to get a shotgun, just little things. But then you tie in, bob and weave in some kind of value, your real life story, and then make it relatable to the audience. Like, I really think you do a powerful job with that. Were you always, a storyteller naturally? And, how did you get into public speaking in the first place? Because I think you make a big impact on that stage.
Well, thanks. Part of it, number one fear people have is public speaking, and I've never been afraid to talk to people, and I mean, anybody in my family knows exactly where that comes from. My mom's dad is one of those just old school bullshitters. He's just like, he's probably one of the smartest people on the earth, but you'd never know it because he's always so full of shit, and he's one of those people, those people that will be telling you a story and it takes you 20 minutes to realize that he's telling you a joke, that he is just straight like pulling your leg. Like, he's one of those people, and then he's got you, and so I grew up really learning a lot from him. I learned how to cook from him. I learned about, we used to go do archery. I learned that from him. And so he's one of those teachers that you don't realize that he's teaching you things. You don't realize that the stuff that you're learning from him, that you're actually learning it. He doesn't sit you down and teach you a lesson. You just go out and you shoot guns with him, and he shows you the difference between a good gun and a shitty gun, and then you just take those things with you. And I think that a lot of his like demeanor and mannerisms, he's the kind of guy that never met a stranger, and I'm the same way. And so, never been shy to talk to people, walk up to people and kind of figure out how to relate to them really fast, but being true to myself. And so I definitely get that from him. And, it's nothing I've practiced. It's just something I've always done. I was kind of the class clown type, so it's just always been in my nature to be that way.
And just storytelling as well. Like, you give great metaphors and analogies too. Like,
I think because I actually, I try to be like that. You know, I try to come up with good ways to say things that are relatable. You know, I think that if you simplify things down to their root and then just dial them up a little bit, you can relate to people so much, because I think if you over exaggerate or if you over tell a story, you know, you lose people, or it becomes like this fantasy, you know. But me telling a story about, you know, working as a clerk in a t-shirt shop and talking to some aspiring rapper, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that is very relatable because it's so mundane, you know, but it's important to my story, you know. And so telling the Disney story, nobody can relate to that. Nobody can relate to a 17-year-old walking out of high school and working for Disney. You know, that's not a story that people can identify with, even though it was probably one of the biggest things that ever happened to me, because it afforded me to move away. The better story is once I got here that I had to work as a clerk at a t-shirt shop, you know, because then people can latch onto that and be like, hey, I had to do that when I was 17 or 18, you know, and then people are like, well, that's not going to happen to me. And so they tune out.
Yeah, well, you're definitely a wizard with illustrating verbally and visually, man. So props to you for that.
You build your imagination when all you have to stare at is corn your whole life.
I have a hard time with the storytelling, the metaphors, the analogies. Like, I'm a people person. I'll talk to anybody, make a connection real quick, but there's just the storytelling. So I'm learning how to do that. So I wish it came as naturally to me. Something else, I mean, I'm just tooting your horn over here, but since I've known you over the last 3 years, you're an idea machine. You know, what's your process about executing ideas when you get the inspiration? You know, something like we did with the coffee poster. I just gave you an idea and you were like, this is what we're going to do. Crunk Friday swag. That my favorite one this year was the Bill Cosby enamel pens that you found at a flea market or some shit. So, you know, where do you get these ideas and how quickly do you execute, or do you kind of marinate on them for a little bit?
So, I'm ever evolving, and I'm kind of right now evolving at a very fast rate. Years ago, you know, I wrote down stuff. I admire people who sketch, but I just write it down in a few words, you know, because the sketch is in my head. And so I write down ideas, and, you know, a lot of times I find myself sitting on them, you know. And then just to give you another analogy that works perfect for this, you ever had to have a tooth pulled? You ever had a toothache and you had to get a tooth pulled?
Not yet. Knock on wood.
Okay.
I know people who have, so like, how's that? Well,
the first thing that happens when you get a tooth pulled is you say, why in the hell didn't I do that sooner? Because I feel 100% better now. I don't have this toothache, right? Why did I not do that sooner? Well, it's the same thing. If you've got an idea written down, when you execute that idea, the first thing you think about is, why did I not do that sooner? You know, it's a great idea. Imagine if I'd have done it 6 months ago. I could be knees deep in the next idea if I'd have done this earlier, you know? So I look at it like that. It's just like getting a tooth pulled. If you have an idea, do it, you know, because all you're going to think about is, why didn't I do this sooner? And so there's a lot of ideas, you know, you get paralyzed by perfection a little bit. And so you almost don't do anything because you want it to be so perfect. And I'm learning now that it's not about doing stuff perfect. It's about repetition. It's about getting good at doing things so that you can do them pretty good more of the time than doing them perfect, you know, never.
It takes a lot of shitty work to get to your best work, for sure.
It does. That's absolutely right. And I would rather stack up just piles of just shitty work against, you know, somebody that only does one thing a year because they want to be perfect. Because when I look back at like my legacy, I want mountains of work. You know, I want people to sift through it and be like, you know what, we were wrong. This stuff is good. You know, we gave it a C+, but this is A work. It was just ahead of its time. But if you don't do anything, that'll never happen. And so I had some opportunities, you know, and I leave myself open for opportunity. And, you know, it was like a movie poster thing came up with AIGA. And I was like, I got my book. I had this idea. I've been wanting to do it for years, you know, and it was this Marvin Berry's cereal from Back to the Future, you know, and I had an opportunity to do it. And I got that done. It felt so good. It was like getting a tooth pulled. And I'm like, why didn't I do it sooner? You know, because now it's out and I've got room for a new idea. So a lot of that stuff, you know, like the Crunk Friday stuff, that's a real thing. You know, we've been doing that since the early 2000s, you know, and it was just kind of like a kind of inside joke. and I wanted to kind of bat for the cycle at these conferences. And so I spoke, and I've, done some emceeing and some workshops, and now I wanted to sell merch, and so it gave me something that I could identify with and sell on. And so a lot of times, like I said, that like I pick apart the bones of things, and I see people doing stuff, and like, for instance, everybody makes these enamel pins, and, the cleverness on these enamel pins is unreal. I mean, the deep references on these things are so crazy that they really only appeal to a few people. And now you've got 100 pins that you got to sell that 3 people think are funny. And so you're upside down on these pins. And so I was at the flea market one day, and I saw this ashtray, and they had these like 4 or 5 pins in it, and I picked one up, and they're old, and I was like, how much are these? And she's like, oh, you can just have them. And I was like, well, do you have more? And she pulled up this brown bag, and it was like a pound of these pins, and it was an ambulance popping a wheelie. And I had them, and I bought them for, she said I could have them for $2, and I gave her 5. And so I took these pins off her hands for $5. And I just had them, I was waiting to figure out what to do with them, and I wanted to illustrate the ambulance and make up some story because it was just the most random thing. Well, we started getting ready for this year's like kind of design season, and I was looking at the pin trying to come up with an idea, and I got it under like a loop, and I realized there was some writing on the side of this ambulance. And so what I did is I opened up a Google image or a Google search, and as I could make out a letter, I would type in the letter until eventually it autofilled. And it was this movie with Bill Cosby and Harvey Keitel and Raquel Welch called Mother, Jugs, and Speed. And it's from the late 70s. And it was kind of like a blaxploitation movie. And it was just one of those old school movies. And so I just made a little card that said, on the card it says, found at the flea market by Jason Craig. And I numbered them, just for no reason numbered them, just put an arbitrary number on them. And I sold them for $5 a piece, And so you think about that, like if I'd have made an ambulance popping a wheelie, I'd have had to have sold at least 50 of those pins for $5 a piece before I started to break even. But I bought a bag of them for $5, and I'm selling for $5 a piece, and people went crazy over them, And if I go find some more at the flea market, I'm gonna buy those too, and I'm gonna do the same thing. Where I found these at the flea market, because at the end of the day, you just want a cool pin. You don't give a shit where it came from. You just want something cool,
There's still a story tied to it.
Yeah, and I can't outwit everybody, and I can't outspend everybody, but I can find some stuff at the flea market and be the first person to do that, and I guarantee you'll see other people doing that.
It should be on that flea market flip TV show.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
But just like doing small little knick-knack shit.
Hell yeah, and the same thing with Crunk Friday, the way that started is back in the day, a lot of designers were the only person. Then, not every just utility designer's on a design team, and so a bunch of us just like worked at sign shops and blueprint shops and stuff. And back in the day when they had that Yahoo Messenger, you could share videos. And on Fridays, we would just share videos. This is the days of MySpace. We would share videos, and it became the Crunk Friday contest to see who could put up the most crunk videos. And usually it had to do with like booty music and like, whoever had like the most explicit lyrics, and we would announce a winner by the end of the day. But we would sit and DJ all day long, like take turns playing videos. And we've been doing that for 15 years we've been doing that. And so just to finally write it on something and print it on some stuff that people then related to, people love it, and people, I get some really awesome emails from people, that say they love the Crunk Friday stuff. Like for years they've been saying that, so to be able to put it out there in a limited supply, it's pretty awesome to see people respond to that and kind of sharing it the same way that I do.
And don't you like celebrate on your Fridays too? Like Fridays with the kids gone and stuff?
Yep. So so now as we get a little older, Crunk Friday for me is every other Friday. And, once you have children, like you're really in the Crunk Friday club. Because if every day is crunk, then none of them are. And I know you got your cats and stuff, but
it doesn't count
things
yet.
Change. No, but things change whenever, that first time that you take your kids to the babysitter and you go out, you go to eat at Red Lobster, like you eat super early that first time. It's like 6:00 on a Friday, and it's like you're sitting there looking at your clock and you're like thinking about maybe going to a movie, but then you don't because you're worried, and so you're home by like 8. Like that first Crunk Friday is the most stressful day. But then after that, man, you'll just take those kids and throw them to a stranger, and it's like, and you're out, and you'll just stay out until like the next day. And that's like that first good Crunk Friday. And then you just kind of get it, and for most people, with a lot of kids, probably for like Bob and Steph Ewing, they probably only get a babysitter once every 3 months. And so, for that makes it extra special, because then you go out and you live like you're 21 again. And you go find the club and go shake your ass and have some fruity drinks with umbrellas on them and stuff, like, right around the corner from your house.
Well, speaking of Fridays, I recently got some inspiration for people like Type Combo Tuesday, Sunday Sun with Tad Carpenter, Matt Dawson was the Type Combo, and you have Free Art Friday, and I'm doing Fresh Slice Friday with some pizza drawings over at Pizza Drawings Only. But I plugged some of that inspiration from people like you. So give us a little bit more about Free Art Friday and how do you make time to do this?
Okay, so Free Art Friday, I didn't start it. It's been going on for a few years, and it kind of has its peaks and valleys like anything else. And a bunch of us here in Augusta did it. I think somebody in Atlanta started it, and it was just, at first it was kind of like we all made these like Bigfoot, like everybody took a Bigfoot cutout and made them, and they're super cool, and people went out and found them, and people would participate here and there. Well, this year, a lot of times I will start an idea on a whim and not realize how big it is until it's, full steam ahead, and so the beginning of the year, I found a little box of these magnetic canvases, and I decided I would just put one out every week, and a lot of, I've never really participated too hard in the Free Art Friday thing, but this year I decided I was going to try doing it every week, and there's some rules to it. Basically, I'm going to paint a variation of the same thing every week, and I was going to put them downtown Augusta, and let's see, I was going to paint them the day before, whatever, a few rules, nothing too strict, but I wasn't going to like mass produce them, I was going to paint them each week and all that. Well, what I found is it created this, like, as designers, we make a logo, we make an identity, and then we never really let it go, and you can see that whenever you give your logo to somebody and then you see them just fuck it up so bad where they knock out the American flag in the logo for 4th of July, or they put a shamrock on it for St. Patrick's Day because it's cute, and you're like, you just blew your brand standards, all is lost. And so we never really let go. Well, if you painted something, not design a logo for 2 days and let it go. If you painted something and then you put it out there in the world and somebody took it and you never even knew where it went, or somebody just picked it up and threw it in the trash, right? It makes it so that you can pour yourself into something, but then just let it go. Let it become somebody else's, like it's supposed to be, and if you can do that with art, it's something you craft with your hands, then you can do it with a logo, and something that I found while doing this, I found two things. One, I found that these little magnetic canvases are not as easy to find as I thought they'd be. I needed 52 of them because I'm going to do it every week. But the other thing that I found is that, for the past few years, I dealt with some personal issues and was struggling with anxiety and stuff. I talked to you about it before. I'd never painted. What I was saying before, like when I painted all those years, it turned into like a day job. It was never therapeutic. It was always transferring this idea onto this canvas. Well, these little canvases, I've started, like, whatever's going on that week, I've purged it out on this little canvas, good or bad, and so a lot of times the better ones that I've done are fueled by some kind of conflict I've got going on, and I didn't even realize this was happening until, I got really into it, and like the year's almost halfway over. And so a lot of these things, if when I look back at them, I'm like, wow, I was really going through some stuff during this week, or I had a statement to say, there was when I realized it, a buddy of mine had done a flyer, and somebody else gave him shit about it because it was kind of like a parody flyer. It was a homage type thing for this little show that he was doing. And he kind of got bullied into taking it down, and it was one of those things that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Well, I had a voice, I took my Free Art Friday and I parodied the exact same thing, and I put it out for the world, and I'm like, say something to me. Because you can bully this guy, but you can't bully me. And so I put it out there like that. And that's when I realized that I was really pouring myself into these little canvases. And so it kind of became something more than I thought it would be. It was really just exercise at first. And now it's really becoming something that's actually kind of keeping me sane week to week. As far as finding time for it, man, I have painted these things. Like I come back from the gym on a Friday morning, and it's like I'm painting them, in my lap, sitting there drinking my coffee, watching Vice News or something, painting the thing. And other times it's like Thursday, and I was like, I can't wait because I got a great idea. I've hung them up wet before. The other thing I found out is that apparently it isn't shit magnetic in 2017. I thought I could stick these things anywhere. Nothing is magnetic out in the world. Everything's made out of stainless steel or aluminum. There's nothing made out of like some iron or steel or whatever the hell magnets stick to. And so that's a challenge in itself, But the other thing I do is I don't post them on my Instagram. I put them on the little story there sometimes. But it's not a thing where at the end of the year you're going to look and see 52 posts with 52 Free Art Fridays. At the end of the year, I'm going to post one post. I'm going to be like, Free Art Friday, number 52. You missed 50. You missed number 1 through 51 if you weren't paying attention, because it's really, I really do want it to be a liberating kind of thing that's just to freeze my mind and keeps my skills sharp,
No, that's dope, dude. I didn't realize the depth to it, but also you could just call it Free Fridge Art Friday because that should always stick to a fridge. So
man, and that's the thing too is that it's also in itself it's a little bit of a statement. And I do work in a white box gallery where we put the most top of the line art. We put the stuff that is the stuff you see in museums that cost thousands of dollars. And so to work in that all day and then to go out and basically make fridge magnets, is a statement about what art is. And to me, like art should be accessible, and not to say that the stuff I do at my job is not accessible because, you can come and view it and people do buy it. But, what I'm doing, I think at the end of the year, knowing that 52 people are going to have a painting of mine. Like, I think if I told you that 52 people were going to own something that is unique and look at it every day at the end of the year, you would be happy with that on itself. You wouldn't say, how much money am I going to make doing it or how much time is it going to take? You'd be like, wow, 52 different people are going to enjoy something that I made. That's a success right there.
Damn, I think people need to listen to this shit right now and stop being so worried about the affirmation and the likes, the followers, the analytics, and create from that place that you just enjoy. You separate the design and needing to make money off something and actually pour yourself into something like that. I think that's pretty powerful, man.
Yeah, and I did like an Inktober thing, where every day I drew an ink drawing, and man, that was stressful. I have so much respect for people who do daily things.
I feel you, man.
Dude, I see how much time you spend on that pizza drawing, man. I got respect for that. I got, Bob Ewing, just doing the type thing, I mean, man, to carve out that kind of time is, I got a lot of respect for it, So
I did my first Inktober last year, and then once it got done, I put out an episode saying how crazy and stupid and stressed I got from it and how I'm never going to do it again.
Oh, dude.
It was stressful, man.
Like, it's stressful. It's hard.
Yeah, it's way hard. And then people like Bob going 536 days of doing some kind of hashtag lettering. Like, shout out to Bob. God, I talk about Bob all the time.
Yeah, dude, ligatures, like he was writing a word every day, and he did a expert one for me, like on the 29th day or something. I was like, holy shit, it's the coolest thing ever.
Damn.
So, I got a lot of respect for all those people. But the thing too, though, I mean, not to just, there's people that go to the gym every day, There's people that wake up and feed their kids breakfast every day before they go to school. And those are things that we don't celebrate as much as we do a guy that can, write some calligraphy, but there's a lot of people in the supporting roles that make these things happen. And so, like while Bob is drawing that letter, his wife is taking care of the kids. Mm-hmm. And so, for all 500 of those days. And so, think about the support that goes into that stuff. Think about, somebody's feeding your cats while you're drawing that pizza, cuz, so, none of us are an island. We all have support people. I've got my support people, and I couldn't do it without them. So, every time you see that stuff, think about the people that make it possible.
This is perfect segue into this one. So, obviously, you're dropping some absolute gold right now. I know people are really going to resonate here, but what's one piece of advice for the struggling creative who's unsure where to start, or maybe they get caught up in comparison? What would you say to them? You've already given a ton of advice right now, but what would you say to that person?
I'm gonna say this: redefine struggle. Redefine what you like. Take a deep, hard look at what you consider struggle. Struggle is a matter of perspective. And sometimes struggle and passion get confused, because I think passion, people say they're passionate about something, but passion is things that you're willing to suffer to do, and so if you're passionate about design, that means you're willing to suffer some to do that. I'm not passionate about working at Burger King, so I'm not going to really suffer much to go work at Burger King, but I'm passionate about the things that I do, about kind of being in control of my own time, and dictating my own workflow and all that thing. I'm passionate about that, and I'm willing to suffer for it. I'm willing to take a pay cut for it, and so you could call that a struggle. You could say that I left an agency to work for a nonprofit, and I make less money on my salary now, but it's a passion, not a struggle. And so even though I make less salary at that point, I can do so much more outside of there that I make way more money. I have way more perks. I'm a happier person, and I understand the value of my time. And another person could look at that and be like, I just got downgraded. I'm making email blasts now. Oh, I gotta do social media now. Before I had an intern do that. I'm struggling. Figure out what part of that struggle is actually passion, and if there's, keep the passion part and figure out how to fix that struggle part. But really, just change your perspective. Just like you say, change your perspective, man.
I love it. It's so
because
true,
here's the thing. People are going to see you the way that they see you. You're never going to change in people's eyes. My cousin Destiny, man, I mean, whatever I do today, she's like, I knew that in 5th grade. She's when you do things, the people that have always believed in you, it just reaffirms their belief in you, and so if you've got passion and you're suffering to do something that you love, I mean, right now, you're doing the day job, and you are working your ass off drawing that stuff, and you're building something, and that's because it's passion. You're not in a struggle right now. You're just passionate about something.
I think that's the best definition of passion, because passion is such a shitty buzzword these days, but the way you say it, though, something that you're willing to struggle or suffer for, that's I don't know, I'm kind of lost for words. You're wise beyond your years, man. It's that, I love it, man. That's probably my favorite bit of this episode. But let's move into like some of the rapid fire questions. This is my favorite one to ask everyone. What's your favorite kind of pizza?
Okay, so check this out. I'm gonna have multiple answers for a few of these, so I'll make them fast. All right, Augusta is not a pizza town. We got the Papa John's, we got Pizza, we got I think we got a Godfather's here somewhere. But I like that Mellow Mushroom.
Yes,
it's franchise, dude. The Magic Mystery Tour. It's got the pesto and stuff. It's got a lot of stuff on it. But man, that Magic Mystery Tour and that crust they got is so
good. And just the artwork in there. It's a hippie's pizza's dream.
Yeah, and get this, it's on the same block as West of it. It's four doors down. It's 4 doors down. You go past Firehouse Bar, then you go past Knuckle Sandwiches, and then you're at Mellow Mushroom. And dude, it's the best. But if I'm on death row, right? And they say all you can get is one slice of pizza, and that's all you got left, right? That's my last meal. I'm taking it old school to that lunchroom rectangle pizza from school when I was a kid growing up, because that was like, man, that rectangle, you know, that crappy, like got the holes in it. Like you looked it up, it's like the holes in the bottom of the rectangle at school. Man, I would kill for a slice of that from like 7th grade.
I think
that'd be
think that's the new way I'm gonna preface this question. If you were on death row and you had one meal left and it was up to be a slice of pizza, seriously, I'm taking that. Sorry, I just got I got your permission. I knew it already.
Yeah, take it, because you're gonna get a different answer every time. You're gonna get the real answer.
I love the lead into that one. That makes it so much more dramatic about some pizza. All right, here's another one I think tells a lot about someone: serif, sans serif, or script.
Slab serif.
Ooh, throwing curveballs with blocky fonts. That's not the question.
That's not the question. Okay, if I got to
pick,
no,
I'll take it. That's a good one. That's a wrinkle.
But I would be sans serif. You know, I mean, black letter stuff is my favorite stuff, man. I love looking at that. I love looking at black letter stuff. I love drawing it. I love when I can put that in design. But you know, simple, you know, Gothic, like sans stuff, you know, it's clean, it does the job. I'm from the Midwest, you know, I want utility, you know, the stuff that's stamped on the bottom of your lunchbox, you know, that's what I'm looking for.
Who's a designer or artist these days that you think is currently killing the game, someone that you can't get enough of?
Okay, so I got a couple answers for this too, and I'm gonna preface this because I think it's such bullshit whenever people are like, "Oh, my buddy," you know, "Oh, this is my coworker right here." But I got two. Like my buddy Justin, he's got this brand Loose Fools that he is pumping out there.
I met him Creative South the last 2 times.
Yeah. Well, the first time he went, you know, it was his first time, and you know, he was like a kid in a candy store, you know, and he spent a year marinating on it, and he dropped his brand this past April, and man, I can't walk down the street without seeing people wearing this shit. You know, I mean, you can't go anywhere here. I mean, he is dominating with this brand he's doing, you know, and it's legit, and the guy's got like videos up with like millions of views, like his shit goes viral all the time, you know, and I mean,
Shoot me up with the link of his stuff, dude, and I'll plug it in the show notes.
Yeah. Oh hell yeah, and I mean, the dude is just slaying it, and he takes photos for me and makes videos for me and stuff, and so, you know, he's reliable, and the thing that's awesome about him is that his cup is not even a quarter of the way full. You know, he's learning all the time, you know, and he wants to learn. He asks questions, and so this guy, I mean, he's gonna be just murdering it, you know, and so. He's one person that I just can't get enough of. And then another, you know, I share a studio. We have an analog studio, and this guy, Matt Porter, I saw a business card the other day for a DJ, and I was like, holy shit, who did this? And I was trying to figure out what agency did it, you know, because it was like this like aesthetic that was like what everybody strives for. It was like that hipster, like mismatched fonts, like, did they do it on purpose? Did they do it on accident? I don't know, you know, and I found out it's a dude that's in the same studio as me. And it was like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing. I could have never, you know, I would have had to have really forced this, you know, and he just does it naturally. And his name's Matt Porter, and he does DJ gigs, and he makes his own flyers for him in our studio. And, you know, he does stuff like on Valentine's Day, he made a flyer, and it was like Ike and Tina Turner on the flyer that he hand drew, you know, and so it's just such deep levels of like clever, you know, and so that guy's just killing. I told him last night, I was like, I don't even want to show you stuff because I don't want to like taint your like ideas, you know. I just want it to all be coming natural, you know. I don't want to show you what this reminds me of. So those are my buddies, you know, which I think is a bullshit answer when other people say it, you know. So my other answer is also kind of my buddies down the street, the Half and Half in Columbia. They're about an hour away from
the
here.
Half and Half, yeah. I follow them on Instagram.
So they do phenomenal printing, you know, and they're growing like crazy, and
their poster game is insane.
Their poster game is insane. But let me tell you something. I can't go to like everybody talks about design trends, you know, and what they're talking about is shit they see on the popular page on Dribbble. They call it a trend. Well, what I say as a design trend is what you see when you walk outside your front door. And every time I go to the damn liquor store, I see this, like, whatever it is, like Copper Mule liquor or whatever it is, Copper something. And it is the most awesome packaging. And you have to put this in the show notes too, because it's like the coolest shit. And it hurts my feelings every time I see it. And it's just one of those things where it's like, I want to shake my fist and be like, damn you people for making this stuff and putting it right in my face, And so, they're just killing it, and they continue to put out awesome stuff, and they're awesome people. I get mentorship from them whenever, I talk to Sarah over there here and there. And, I mean, God, they're quiet, it's a sleeper thing. They used to be like a little boutique thing, and dude, they got like a big ass like operation over there. And so, they're really killing it. So they're printing for everybody and selling out for everybody. So, I mean, it's good for them.
We'll link them up in the show notes as well. We'll link all three of them up. So hell yeah. I love that you get excited about celebrating other people. It's awesome.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing is I read a lot about, I try to figure out what makes people tick. And a lot of people have this misconception that this pie is only so big, and that if I take a bigger piece of it, that means you get less of it. And the truth is that the pie that we're all fighting for isn't something that you hold in your hands. We're standing on it. The pie is so big that you couldn't take too much of it. I mean, there's enough for so many people, and if you've got a bigger piece than me, then good for you. You did something to earn it. And, if you kissed ass and got it, good for you. I don't care. If you're doing good work and I'm appreciating it out in the world, then you're making my life better. And I'm not going to hate on you, And so, it's just that it's this thing I posted the other day on Instagram. It was kind of where, I'm starting to let my emotions come through on my design. It was this poppies and crabs thing I made. And it was a deal, and it's just this thing called tall poppy syndrome. If a poppy grows too tall, the other poppies kind of lean on it and kind of choke it out, and it's like crabs in a bucket, in the ghetto, they call you crabs, and if a crab's trying to climb out of a bucket, the other crabs grab it, trying to get a little leg up, they end up pulling it back down, and that is some bullshit, and if you're sitting there hating on somebody right now, or you're like mad because somebody's doing better than you, then you're either a crab or a poppy, and you need to fucking get over that, I'm serious, and this is personal because I deal with people all the time in these little groups where they think there's a finite amount of success to be had. And really what it is it's them defining themselves in a way that I'm not going to define myself. I don't think I've even reached the mountaintop yet, and I'm going to be climbing forever. And if you're trying to pull me down, you better have some more than some damn crab claws, because my ass is climbing hard, and I'll just drag you with me if that's what it takes. You know what I'm saying? So the days for hating and thinking that there's a limited amount of success for all of us, man, we can all be successful. If Trump can be president, man, we can do anything.
Stay in your own lane. Yep. I agree, man. Man, I appreciate it. You dropped so much value on this episode. Like, damn, at the beginning I kind of I do a little snippet of like a one-liner before the episode starts, and I have like 5 picked out for this one, so it's going to be like a 2-minute just highlight clips at the beginning. But I appreciate you being on the show, dude. Where can people go to find you online?
Hey, listen, I do Instagram. I'm big on Instagram, and then what I like to do is I convert people from Instagram to texting me, and so if you got my phone number, like I get up at 5 a.m. and I if you text me at 5 a.m., I'm reading it, and so, you know how I am, but Instagram is the best way. Follow me on that, dude. I love those little stories, man. I couldn't do Snapchat, but those little stories, oh my God, I love that shit. If you want to find the real me, you check that shit out. But I love that stuff. And it's really good. Instagram is a really good tool. I get a lot of work from Instagram, and man, I just, it's a good way to reach out to people. So, hit me up and send me a message. You know what? I've got a couple more of those grab bags with the Crunk Friday t-shirt. And so I don't know if you give away stuff on your show, but if somebody hits me up that wears an XL, I'll send it to them.
You guys hear that? If you wear an XL, hit up Jason at Jason the 29th.
Yep.
On Instagram.
Yeah, I got a couple of them, so I can get a couple people. So I got a few of those left, so I'll send those to a couple people. So hit me up on Instagram, and you got it.
Word. Anything on Dribble too? You active on that as much lately?
No, I do Dribble. Yeah, I'm on Dribble. Dribble I kind of take for what it is. I show off some stuff on Dribble. Dribble's fun. I love seeing the people that like my work on there. So I do Dribble, and it's either Jason the 29th or Jason Craig. But yeah, those two spots. I've been working on my website since 1995. One day I'll get it.
Web 2.0 and Web 1.0.
Yeah, Angel Fire, then I'll get it.
Do you have anything coming up that you want people to know about? Any speaking engagements? Or
honestly, it's funny. Another thing I used to give people shit about is like the stuff. Oh, I can't talk about it. I have speaking engagements booked to 2018. To the fall of 2018. And so just keep your eyes peeled on these conferences. I'm always going to be popping up at them in any towns, from here to, Austin, Texas. So
pop up. I'll see you there, man.
I don't know. We'll see. I'll definitely be there. I'll definitely be in attendance one way or another.
Yeah.
And so, some of that stuff, it's awesome, but if you want me to come speak, I'll go anywhere that's cool, so I've talked to 7 people before, so anything.
Word, man. Well, I really appreciate your time. I know the listeners of this too are going to get a lot of insight from you, man. So thanks for being here. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Scotty. It's awesome.
All right, man. Let's keep in touch.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Peace.
Peace out, man.
All right. I told you we were going to get deep on this episode. I can't tell you enough good things about Jason and how he's helped me grow as an artist and just a creative, and gaining this mindset and mentality to produce my best work along the way. Seriously, Jason, you are a huge inspiration to me, and hopefully a huge inspiration to those people in my audience right now. I can't thank you enough for being on the show today. If you're finding any value in the show, one of the best ways that you can give back is by taking a couple minutes to just give a rate and review over on iTunes. It may not seem like a lot, but it really helps the show get discovered, and not gonna lie, it helps me know that I'm serving a purpose over here. Another way you can give back to the show is just by sharing it with a friend over on social media. The biggest way the show has been growing is through people like you on Twitter or Instagram. It's been amazing to see the growth over this last year, and to see all the new people sharing it with other people, and having new people reach out to me. Like it's awesome. I love engaging with you guys, and I love seeing the show being shared. Mainly, you can find the show over at Instagram at Perspective Podcast. That's where I'll be sharing the artwork each week, and I'll be sharing your artwork if you've been inspired by the show. I need to give a huge shout out to Nick Jenkins of Blookah for all the theme music that you hear on this show. You can learn more about him and hear more of his music over at soundcloud.com/Blookah. That's BLOOKAH. As always, I want to thank you so much for lending me your time out of your existence and lending me your ears. I want to encourage you to keep showing up, keep putting in the work, and keep creating. You got this.